Bitcoiners are everywhere now. You can buy Bitcoin in a matter of minutes around the corner from where you live based on who your contacts are. Online trust can be broken, but what can't be broken is like my real world reputation. I protect it at all costs because I want to be a trustworthy individual that has friends. Stop giving your personal information to financial institutions. Stop incentivizing people to give away that information to large centralized exchanges.
Én Lőrinc Barbő vagyok, ez pedig a Bitcoin Kebab, a BitcoinBázis podcastja. Hi Grafton, welcome to the Bitcoin Kebab podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. And you can already we can jump into the first question. So what was your orange pill moment?
Wow. I've been in Bitcoin quite a long time. I guess my true orange pill moment came living in Prague, which is kind of known as like the Bitcoin capital of Europe. I've been here a long time, and walking into a cafe a long time ago here in Prague and being able to pay with Bitcoin was that moment where I saw okay, I had heard about Bitcoin. I had, messed around with it a little bit, but really starting to see how I could actually use it in the real world. I think that would be my orange pill moment back in 2015 is when I really fell much harder back into it. Yeah.
So was it already when you said that you could pay with Bitcoin, it was okay, let me just get some Bitcoin and then use it as a currency, or what was the thought process afterwards?
Yeah, no, I was working in this neighborhood in Prague at the time called Hyperbitcoinization, and in there they had this place called Parallelipolis, which is the parallel society. It's quite famous. And I went in, looking for a place to work, do some planning and just sit down and have a coffee, and ordered a coffee and couldn't pay with cash or card. I had to buy Bitcoin. So they actually had a little ATM there where I was able to purchase Bitcoin. And but that wasn't my first time to ever mess with Bitcoin or anything like that. That was just kind of that moment where it all came back together, and I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then you fall down the rabbit hole from there even further. Yeah.
So how did you actually first hear about it, and why you didn't start to interact with it then?
Yeah, the first time I ever heard about it was through my friend back in Mississippi, where I'm from. I grew up on the internet. I mean, I'm 37 years old, so I grew up in the early days of dial-up internet and doing file sharing and all this kind of stuff. And my friend had talked about, Bitcoin. He had heard about this thing, and then because I was doing file sharing for live music, so legally recorded music, we were hosting it on servers, and people were asking, can we donate Bitcoin? And this was still really, really early days. And so that was kind of the first time I ever heard of it, but I was still young at the time. I mean, I feel like Bitcoin's been around for such a long time now, and it's really hard to look back and go well, when was the first moment that I heard about it or anything like that? Because I feel like I've been into it for quite a long time now.
What I'm hearing out of this is that you were basically always trying to, or you've been part of this new wave type of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually told the story on quite a few podcasts of how I really got into, I'd say, these types of things. And when I was a kid, I was running a incentive-based advertising business from my bedroom on the internet. So I was giving away free iPods in exchange for you signing up and completing free trials for things and referring friends. So I grew up on message boards, learning about, how to, potentially make money on the internet. I mean, I was young, and that was kind of where I really, so I made friends on the internet. I still have, friends send me. We used to also play games together and talk about everything. And he sent me last week, do you realize it's been 20 years we've been talking to each other through headsets? So yeah, I mean, I feel like I just grew up on the internet and looking for the next thing. And with Bitcoin, I bought Bitcoin, I sold Bitcoin, just never really truly grasping it. So that's when you say what's my orange pill moment? My orange pill moment was the moment that I realized oh, this is bigger than just gambling. This isn't, that's how you look at modern day, meme coins or shit coins or whatever. For me, it's that they're in that stage. They're in the gambling stage where they think, okay, you could get rich quick. As I remember when Bitcoin was about the Lambos, it's like now Bitcoin's not about the Lambos. Bitcoin's about really changing lives and helping people, and making like a real difference where, people buying whatever meme coin is today, they're losing and they're gambling. And for me, that's not, that's certainly a path for many, many people into Bitcoin, because they might make a little bit of money on some gamble and they go, well, what do I do with it now?
Mhm.
Well, yeah, you should definitely be putting that into Bitcoin, for me. So that was, I grew up making money on the internet, realizing that it was fun to spend money. And then when I truly started to understand Bitcoin, I realized, well, Bitcoin's the first thing that truly teaches me to save money. And that was that like light bulb in my head. It's like my whole life I've tried to get money so that I could give it away and spend it. And Bitcoin was like, you want Bitcoin because you want more Bitcoin. You want to hold Bitcoin. You want to do that. And so that really is what unlocked it for me, I would say.
Can you please like tell me like how did it teach you to actually save money? Because that's like a completely different like mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of books I read as well about, is what we put value in. And also is like, I spend so much time working, and, creating and doing things that I want to be rewarded with something of value. And, looking around, it's like, I don't, I can't imagine having money for a Lamborghini, like that seems crazy to me. But a lot of people's idea of success is like, I want to make money so that I can spend money on these things and have these things so other people or maybe I just enjoy them. But Bitcoin is, we've all seen the memes of like, he's short Bitcoin because he still has a mattress. He's not sleeping on his floor. But that's really how it is. I would rather have more Bitcoin than a Lamborghini. And that's because having that, it's knowing that I have something of value, and that if I choose to share it with someone else, I am passing that value to another person.
Mhm.
So, I use the story of like my cleaning lady all the time. Is I never thought that I would have a cleaning lady, but I live in Prague, and there were some Ukrainian, people that were looking for work after, the whole invasion and war. And so I said, why not? My apartment's pretty small, I'll use it. But as we get to know each other, we start talking about Bitcoin, and I wind up saying, well, hey, could I tip you in Bitcoin? I know that you want to make money, and you need fiat to pay your bills and to do this, but can I tip you in Bitcoin? And so I did. And I saw her every time we would come, she would ask more questions. She would go this way. And now she's a proper Bitcoiner, and she's able to save money for the first time in her life and not worry about, well, I need to make it so that I can spend it and get the things that I need. She realizes that having Bitcoin gives her the ability to get the things she needs when she needs them, because it's value to her, and she can move anywhere and she can do anything, and she can take that value with her.
I feel like when you are saying that you don't want to have a Lamborghini, it's like most of the Bitcoiners are now like moving away from that like flashy lifestyle, let's
Yeah.
just say, especially when you have like way too much or way too many Bitcoins, then you wouldn't want to actually draw attention to yourself, or not
Yeah.
very much. But the thing is that like I think this difference is between like what's your rich life looks like and what my rich life looks like, and
Mm-hmm.
then what the other person's rich life looks like. Bitcoin is an asset, and then a car is like a depreciating commodity, isn't it? When you are like younger or when you're a teenager, it's like it's harder to make a difference between like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like what does it mean to be rich?
Yeah.
And especially when you're like coming from, for example, like a middle class family, it's like a hard decision or like a hard
Yeah.
thing to learn.
It's hard to know what the value is and where you need it, right? So, like I said, when I was 17, I wasn't telling anybody that I was making money. Certainly not my parents. Like they found out that I was making money on the internet because one day I was sitting in class and I get a phone. My principal gets a phone call. It's my dad, and I never heard my dad say a bad word in my life. And I picked up the phone. I was like, "Yeah, did someone die? Like what? Why are you calling the school?" And he says, "What the hell have you been doing? There is, lot of money in your bank account, and there is a man from the IRS here, and he's asking questions. And I was like, whoa, okay, I can explain. Like let me leave school. I'll come there. I took my big Dell, Inspiron laptop, plugged into the Ethernet, and showed him, and he was like, "Holy shit, man! Pay your taxes," like. And that was the first moment. My dad was like, he was proud, but he was like, "Okay, so you have all this money. What do you want to do with it?" And the very first thing out of my mouth was, "I want to buy a car." I was 17. Of course, I didn't want the car that I was driving, which was perfectly good. I wanted a brand new BMW, something, or BMW as they say in Europe, but something, high quality, luxury, nice, to show that I had made all this money. But, as I started to kind of realize that I'm growing up. I want to travel. These things tie me down. These things, keep me locked into place. Like I'm from Mississippi, but I live in Czech Republic, right? And I've been over here 13 years, but I've also lived in Korea. I've lived in the UK. So I realized that, okay, well, Bitcoin also allows me to accumulate something of value that I can move with, that I can travel with, that I can have. A car, it's pretty hard to travel around the world with a car if you want to go live somewhere. And so exactly as you said, is for some people, it might be, they want to obtain a yacht or a private jet, but like, I have no interest in that. Right. So for me, I'm very happy. I like being with people. I like moving. I like making friends. And that's also why, I came into Bitcoin, is because I did meet the right people. And, I go to a lot of events. I go to a lot of conferences. I mean, you and we just met tonight, but the reason we met is because I met someone at a conference that, put us together. And, I had such a great time meeting these people, and those people have become my friends. And so I think that's what really is, Bitcoin has taught me, because I'm surrounded by people who I share a lot of similar interest with. And it's taught me a lot about who I am and about what I want from life, I guess.
And how did Vexl come into the picture?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been part of it. Like I said, I've been a Bitcoiner for a long time, but during COVID, I, like a lot of people, were, bored for the first time in a long time. We're sitting in our apartments, not knowing like, all right, I have a job, but like, is that really what I want to do? No. And, as I guess fate or whatever has it, there was a Google ad for a job at Trezor. So I said like, no way. How, they're not going to hire me, but why not? I have nothing else to do today. So I put in an application. I had one interview. They were like, dude, you're hired, like you're exactly what we've been looking for. And I told them just like, yeah, that's what I need. I need a foot in the door, because I know I have a lot to contribute. I was a teacher for a long time as well. So I have a lot to contribute to the, industry to help, do this thing. And after a few months in Trezor, they sent me to Miami for Bitcoin Miami, like 2022. And I met my CEO, who was Leia Petrashova, and she's the CEO of Vexl. And the first time I met her, I had just heard about Vexl, and I cornered her, and I was like, this is exactly what I want to work on. She's like, dude, we're a nonprofit. I have, I can't hire you. I was like, I don't care. I was like, but this is what I'm interested in, because Vexl is Bitcoin. Vexl is peer-to-peer with no KYC, with no middleman, nothing. It is exactly what Bitcoin was intended to be. And that was what was interesting to me, is when I look around and I see, big financial institutions joining ETFs. I see, large exchanges that are crashing and walking away with, going bankrupt overnight and these kinds of things. I go, whoa, 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 this is not Bitcoin. These are giant financial institutions that are just mirroring our current system. They're trying to get involved and trying to just, hey, okay, we can adapt, right? Well, no, Bitcoin wasn't made for that system to adapt to it. Bitcoin was made to break free from that. Like that's what I believe. So Vexl is that ethos. Vexl is that peer-to-peer nature of Bitcoin that I love so much. Because, as I told you previously, as I grew up with file sharing, with, going to see my favorite bands in concert, recording those shows, and then trading them with other people. it was peer-to-peer music. And, we're all familiar with that concept, but I wasn't doing it in the Napster and the things like this. I was trading concert musical experiences and, wanting to share those things from others and getting something of value and sharing something that I value with others. And so Vexl really is that ethos for me because, well, yeah, it's made for buying and selling Bitcoin,
Mhm.
but people quickly adapted it. Like I think a couple of weeks after we launched, we started seeing offers for all kinds of things there, like honey and eggs and horses and all these kinds of goods. And we went like, whoa, people are taking this and making a tool, and they're trading things of value. If you're a back end or front end developer and you say, hey, I can do some work, I'll work for Bitcoin. And then you start to see, oh, suddenly I'm connected through this, social graph of, friends and friends of friends. It just starts to make sense. And it makes Bitcoin, it creates a local circular economy. And I think that we're achieving that.
If I never heard of Vexl, then what's the first thing I see when I open up like your website, or like what's the first thing I need to do in order to be able to use your services?
Yeah. So Vexl, number one, is a mobile app. So if you have Google, like Android phone, or if you have Apple iOS, you can run Vexl, right? Right now on iOS devices, it's in test flight. So the best way to get that is just to go straight to our website, which is Vexl. It's VEXL .it. So it's like, how do you get Bitcoin? You Vexl it. What does Vexl mean? That means peer-to-peer with no KYC, right? That's how you get Bitcoin. But once you go to our app, like you can hit the download button and install Vexl. Now, the magic of Vexl really works in your web of trust, like your social graph. So what that means is when you're trading and when you're using Vexl, you're only trading with friends and friends of friends. And that is based off of your contacts, your phone book, right? But your phone book is not shared with us. It's not shared with anyone. No one gets a notification that says, Grafton joined Vexl, right? It's all done completely privately on your device client side, but it uses that. So if you and I don't know each other, but we have a common connection,
Mhm.
Fanny, then I can trade with you based on our common connection. She can vouch for you, and I can vouch, for someone else as well in the future. And then we start to build out. So you see, I have 2 friends in common, 3 friends in common, 10 friends in common. And then, you go, oh, I have 15 common friends with this person who's selling Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure I can do this trade safely and successfully, because what we are really also encouraging people is to meet face to face, right? We live in Bitcoiners are everywhere now. Little Bitcoin communities are everywhere. And the more we start to see this scale, you can buy Bitcoin in a matter of minutes around the corner from where you live based on who your contacts are.
It sounds like a little bit like what we used to do when we were in high school, because we were like 16, 17. We were not able to register to any of the exchanges. So we
Mhm.
went on local Bitcoins and then tried to find
Exactly.
a person to trade with. So
Yeah.
is it like this is how I supposed to imagine like
So certainly carrying on the torch from local Bitcoins, right? Is local Bitcoins was, definitely part of the inspiration, but we wanted to do it in a way that improves on it, makes it safer. Because with local Bitcoins, yeah, you're based on a reputation that anyone can game. You got to kind of, it's based on a reputation that is gameable, right? So you don't know who you're meeting. And with Vexl it's not based on a star rating system. It's not based on anything like that. It's based on the fact that it's like, well, I have 5 friends in common with this person, so I'm pretty sure that they're going to be okay for me to trade with, right? And because I don't know the identity of the counterparty, maybe you in this instance, but I do know the names of the 5 people that we share in common.
Mhm.
So I might say, hey, we don't know each other, but we both share one of my good friends, Bob. You know, how do you know Bob? Is Bob, would you be okay? Like, I want to meet you to buy, 1,000 euros worth of Bitcoin, but would you be okay if I asked Bob first to vouch for you? You don't have to tell me your name. You don't have to tell me anything. Just, can you send Bob a message, and I'll send Bob a message. And if he says cool, then I'm fine to meet you.
Mhm.
Right. But as it starts to scale, you don't need to do that, because then you have 20 friends in common, and you have every reason to act good in the marketplace, because if you don't, your real world reputation is damaged and you lose real world trust. Online trust can be broken, right? Look at Telegram groups, look at all of the Twitter scammers, just like everything everywhere. But what can't be broken is like my real world reputation. I protect it at all costs because I want to be a trustworthy individual that has friends,
Mhm.
So I think that that's really how, we improve upon it. But as you said, when I was, young, you had to use different services, and people are still doing that. People are still using Telegram groups and these things, but they are not safe. You're announcing things very publicly in these
Yeah.
groups. So yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely not. I mean, if my parents would have known that, like, we are meeting in an alley with like a person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I'm carrying money with myself, that's yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, even now, like I meet people very often for vexeling, in Prague. Prague is amazing for it because I just open the app and any given day, it's like I have friends that I can call them and they'll sell me Bitcoin, but because I like doing it, I use Vexl. So I try to do one like a week, and just to get to know, like, how it feels, and have the experience with it. But I very frequently meet people like in the very city center underneath a giant horse statue, and like I don't know anything about them, but I always say like I'll have my dog, and so I immediately, I'm standing there and there's someone comes in like, excuse me. It's like if they're either wanting to pet my dog, or they're wanting to take a picture, or they're wanting to like buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin. So it is funny to kind of meet people in person, but it's also cool because I've met so many nice people. I've made friends. We have meetups, we have communities, so it's nice to start doing it, and then because you're connected through friends and friends, your social graph starts to grow, and you realize like, oh no, hyper-Bitcoinization is a lot closer than it seems, because there's a lot of us. Yeah.
Oh, you think it's possible to actually like have hyper Bitcoinization?
I mean, look, I live in a bubble. I live in the Bitcoin industry. I live in a city where I can pay, but it's like, look at the African Bitcoin conference, happening right now in Kenya. And I mean, there's so many people there, and they're like, did you realize you can pay anywhere in Africa, like anywhere in Kenya with Bitcoin? And there are these apps that are really catching on, that are really helping people. Is just look at something like, there are Bitcoin has become, kind of interesting with a lot of custodial solutions, and quick onboardings that are making it easy for people to learn, right? But these aren't end all be all solutions for people, right? Is You're not going to tell someone all you'll ever need is wallet of Satoshi, right? But it's a good onboarding tool, and I think that as we keep getting better and doing in developing things that are convenient and accessible for people to learn and use it, yeah, I do think we're on that path. And that's much part of why I'm so proud of what we're doing with Vexl, is because that's exactly what we're trying to achieve, right? Is if someone learns about Bitcoin for the first time, right? I always use the example is, imagine you go to a Bitcoin conference and you get in a taxi and you start orange pilling your taxi driver. This is a very common instance that you'll see all over Twitter every time there's a Bitcoin conference.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, right, is you orange pill them, you tell them everything about it, and they go, okay, well, how do I buy it?
Hmm.
Oh well, that's depending on who you ask. You get a lot of different answers. My referral link here. You make sure you sign up here, and what you're doing is you're incentivizing people to give away their personal information to be able to have permission to buy Bitcoin, but you're also introducing a lot of hoops and hurdles and barriers and walls between actually hearing about Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin. Um, and that is what I think has been the biggest hurdle for most of like this holding us back a lot, is because I remember buying Bitcoin was difficult. You had to mail something, you had to use an exchange like Mt. Gox, you get burned, you get sad, you leave it. or you have to track somebody down at, I don't know, you said you were 16, but track somebody down in an alley, and that doesn't help, right? So with Vexl, that's exactly what we're trying to fix. Is how do you get Bitcoin? Man, you open Vexl, say I want to buy 100 euros worth of Bitcoin, and somebody's going to write you, and you're going to meet them, and you're going to give them cash, and you're going to walk away. That's it, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be difficult. And doing that without having to take a selfie, measure your shoe type, blood size, blood type, all shoe size and blood type, all this stuff. But like that to me is too much. It's too many hurdles for so many people. And I remember my parents, like, I have talked about Bitcoin for years, but every time, my parents grew up where they didn't even want to put their credit card number on the internet in general. It took a lot of people a long time to be comfortable putting their credit card shopping, online. And, trying to buy Bitcoin for him was, he was nervous. And, there's so much fun and all this, but like Bitcoin doesn't have to be that way. It is as simple as posting an offer and waiting for someone to respond, or seeing an offer and responding to it.
Mhm.
There's no permission needed. Bitcoin is permissionless money. So why have we put up all of these hurdles? That's, I think, what's holding it back from hyper-Bitcoinization.
But this non KYC approach, like, it must be difficult to actually maintain it in general, because obviously, like, especially in Europe, there are like many regulators or regulations that are trying to stop these kind of like activities. Like, how do you fight that, or like, what's your solution for
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about Vexl is we do not facilitate any transactions. We're not an exchange,
that? Yeah, yeah,
right?
okay.
So like we are peer-to-peer Tinder for Bitcoiners. I am connecting you with people, and you want to talk to them and do whatever you want. We don't touch Bitcoin. We don't touch fiat. We are a nonprofit, right? We make no money. We do not charge any fees. There's nothing. Our app is free forever. It's a gift. We are supported purely by donations, right? We are fully open source. So that, you can go to our GitHub now, and if anybody takes it and builds something better that empowers people to be able to make it easier, mission accomplished, right? I mean, that's our mission. And so when I look at, like, from your question about regulations and this kinds of things, is first of all, no, buying Bitcoin without KYC is definitely not a crime. I'm just preserving my privacy. I'm choosing that I don't want my information to end up in, a file somewhere. I was thinking about this the other day, is like most centralized exchanges, they have a remote workforce around the world. And you connect them and you say, hey, something's wrong with my account. And they go, sure, let me look up your account. And then they can see my name, my address, all of my personal information. And they've been working there 3 months. And yeah, they might be under NDA, but I mean, I find it very strange that, I have friends calling me saying, hey, my number, I just got added to some WhatsApp group for Binance, cryptocurrency group. And you hear this constantly. Go, well, yeah, it's because you've given your personal information, you've connected it somehow to cryptocurrency somehow, and now they're just filing you, and they're phishing you, and they're trying. And so that is why I look at it so as being a risk, because my personal information is valuable, and I don't want to share it with anybody. I don't want somebody to know anything about me. I certainly, about how much Bitcoin I own. And I look at, well, KYC it's a hurdle, it's a risk to the individual, and it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't actually protect you in any way. It just makes you more vulnerable, I would say. But yeah, buying Bitcoin without KYC, I mean, it's possible. It's here, and I encourage everyone to do it. Be careful. Don't buy. You don't need to put your information on the internet to be able to buy Bitcoin.
And what other like approaches do you take to like keep your privacy in terms of like crypto and in real life as well? Because like you sound
Yeah.
so
I
informed
mean,
with
this
it.
is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently. Is just because it's like, you go to a lot of conferences and you hear stories of from people around the world. And, I am a very public person, right? I work, at Satoshi Labs. I work in, I worked in Trezor. I work in Vexl. And I preserve my privacy with my Bitcoin is something that I care passionately about, deeply, is letting other people know, that you don't have to expose yourself to these risks, right? I've taken these risks. I have learned a lot.
Mhm.
Um, but, I still work in an industry where, again, I don't know many people in this industry who are, Bitcoin mega rich, living on yachts and these kinds of things. I mean, most of the people I know are builders who have built and lost and gained, and we're still grinding every day, right? But a lot of us have also taken, steps to ensure that, we are protected in a lot of ways. And I think it's important for the individual is each person's threat model is different according to who you are, right? If you go around blabbing your mouth about everything, then, even if you don't have it, even if you want to seem cool, then you become a target. But I think, it's important to know that it's not about preserving this level of privacy, who I am, the things about me, but your personal information that winds up on the internet, with your name, your address, your phone number, that's certainly something that you should be more careful about providing to anyone.
Mhm.
Um, and I, but I am taking those things into account, and it's I learn from people and learn, well, what to do and what not to do, and how to protect it. It's hard, especially in this world today, where there's a camera on every street corner. I mean, we all just watched them track down a man in 5 days that for, assassinating somebody, and you see all of the, how quickly, they track people down based on the smallest things, and it's hard
Oh,
to maintain your privacy.
yeah, but that guy actually, I think he wanted to be found, to be
Yeah, I
honest.
still don't understand that whole thing. It's still bizarre. The whole thing is bizarre.
It is, but at the same time, I kind of understand what happened there, and that's like probably like the fault of the system again. There
Yeah,
is like it's just a symptom of something that was like going on for a long time, and then, for example, I feel like Bitcoin is also like this symptom of the financial industry, um,
absolutely.
working on like just like taking the power for themselves and like yeah, crushing the small person or like the individual or like your rights in general. Obviously, like it's I mean, like you can stand up to a system and not like kill anyone. So
Yeah, I mean yeah, that's definitely a thing. For me, it's interesting because I live on the outside. I live in Europe as an American, looking in.
yeah.
So I get a lot of questions on a daily basis. I have quite in-depth conversations with my friends, my Czech friends and my English friends and these kinds of people about, current affairs all the time. And it's interesting being, not in it and being kind of in a different area, I would say. I grew up in Mississippi, which is a very, we have a very bad reputation, I would say, for being like dumb and fat and slow, and I growing up there, it was interesting, as like the people there are really nice. The people there we're called the hospitality state, that will welcome you
Mhm.
in, and but at the same time, what I see being gone for so long in the news, and then when I go back home, they're two different things. The media portrays America as having all of these problems, but when you're really going and talking to people, like, and you're getting to know your neighbor and things like that, is like I just don't see that the same narrative, for me. And it's like you can see that anytime there's a disaster in America, whether that be a hurricane or an earthquake or anything, right? Is everybody puts whatever's on their mind aside, and they really, you see them come together and help each other. And I do think that Americans are like that. Americans are great people. I know they are, but they definitely get a bad rap. Especially, me living here, it's easy for me to go like, oh my God, like it's so messed up there. But when I'm visiting there and when I'm there on a daily basis, like I just don't see the same narrative that they push, especially about my hometown and these kind of things. You know.
Mhm.
But I think people are certainly mad at the world, a lot of places, not just America.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But like I had the opportunity to travel around a little bit in the US
Uh-huh.
earlier this year, and it was a very interesting experience. Let's just say, like in general, like I got to know so many amazing people, but like some of the stereotypes are like
Oh,
are like we were
stereotypes are very real.
it
Yeah.
was interesting to experience that, and also like when it comes to your safety and your
Oh,
data, and then like
yeah, that's something we take for granted living in Europe a lot is like I remember I grew up in a small town. So if somebody did something bad on a Friday night, their name and picture is in the newspaper the next day, whether they were guilty or not. And you really start to see everybody knows everybody's business. And Americans are a gossipy bunch of people. They'll be nice to your face and then say some really mean stuff behind your back. But I think I know a lot of amazing people who care and who are amazing. But that's what I said, when I go home and I talk to the people, like just strangers, it's like there's something different. It's like I'm standing in line at a restaurant talking to someone I've never met before about crazy conversations. That's like you don't get that in Europe really ever. It's like
Mhm.
no one's ever just chatting me up standing in line somewhere,
Yeah.
and that's a very American thing.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
as a Hungarian, for us it's like definitely like in a small town,
Yeah.
they're not even gonna pretend that they like you. Like
Yeah.
if you did something like
Yeah.
wrong or morally, I mean, like defined as wrong, then people will just like hit in your face, like straight up. Which
Yeah.
is, I mean, obviously different cultures. Like,
But that's why my CEO Leia, she's Slovak, and at first it took me I've been here a long time, but she's very blunt. She's very strict and straightforward with she doesn't beat around the bush, as we say, and I love it because it's helped me like so much. Because being from a culture where they do beat around the bush, it's taught
Mhm.
me that like why you're wasting time, and she'll love me saying this, but she always tells me to cut the ballast. And like the first time I heard, I was like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, what is ballast? I had to look the word up. Being American, I was like, oh, you mean dead wood? And I was like, I get it. Stop dressing things up. Just say it the way it, be straight. And that's also what I like so much about, our company and what we're doing is like, we have a mission. It's very straightforward. I want this. I want Bitcoin peer to peer. I want this for myself. And I know you probably want it too. Right. And so when you cut all the ballast, when you cut all of the ideas, as you start working on something, you go, this is possible. Let's make this happen. And you focus on one thing. And, I used to be very well, educated in all things Bitcoin mining and all this, but lately I'm just like, yeah, I want Bitcoin to be peer to peer. That's my mission. Having an opinion on too many things can be distracting. I'm trying to make Bitcoin convenient and accessible for everybody peer to peer, right?
Mhm.
And so learning that from her, and also like Stick is one of our co-founders, who is Pavel Rusnak. He's like one of the co-founders of Trezor with Slush as well. Stick and Slush created the world's first hardware wallet. Like I've learned so much from them because they're direct. They're people who have solved problems, to like complex problems with solutions that make it easier for people. And it's like, why did the hardware wallet even exist? Well, that makes it easy for people to self custody, right? Is it makes it easy for people to take this cryptography and condense it down into a recovery seed that allows them to store generational wealth, right? And then you look at, well, what is Vexl? It's also their idea, which is we got to make Bitcoin as it was intended, peer to peer, right? So the entire Satoshi Labs, companies and everything has just been nothing but motivated to make Bitcoin easier for everybody. And that's why I think I'm so happy to be on this project. Like from day one, this is what I wanted to do.
So like basically you're job became your life's mission as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's like my boss, Leia always tells me, you have to separate, sometimes you have to separate work and your life. And I go, well, yeah, but this is also is my life. And when I go to conferences, I live in Prague, but when I go to these conferences, I get to see my friends that sometimes the only places I see them are at conferences. But these people have become such good friends, and they're part of my life. But what are we talking about? We're talking about the same kind of stuff. We're talking about Bitcoin, but we're also talking about music. We're also talking about the things that we like doing. And over time you realize, like, oh yeah, well, these are cool people. We're all a bit ADHD and neuroatypical, and we're talkers, so it's easy to find those people in this area, I would say, in this industry.
Do you see Bitcoin as a gateway drug, or like to build other things with blockchain in the industry as well?
So for me, is Bitcoin is the only drug, I would say. And like when I look at what's happening in Bitcoin, is like, okay, there are so many things that I am slightly knowledgeable about, right? Like I have, oh yeah, I know about Lightning, right? And I know that it's making Bitcoin better, but I also know there's maybe scalability issues, and I'm not an expert on those things. So I can't really speak to them. I'm not a technical guy. But how I see Bitcoin is, for me, is I kind of stated in the beginning, is Bitcoin taught me a lot about how to start saving and how to start creating something that I truly value that I would like to share with others. But it's also helped me grow as a human being. It's helped me see how how money works, which is something that they didn't teach you really growing up. No one taught you these kinds of things. And so, learning about Bitcoin means you're also learning about Austrian economics. You're going down these paths that have enriched my life. And I'm meeting people that have enriched my life. So for me, Bitcoin is like, I mean, I can't say I've never had not, I've had shitcoin in the past. Certainly I played with these things. But my journey really found myself like learning about Bitcoin and wanting Bitcoin to succeed. I don't care about any of the other, you know, meme shit coins. I like their practicality. If they succeed, right, then somebody's going to figure out maybe how to put them onto Bitcoin. So maybe they could be considered test nets or whatever. But I still think maybe we should be focusing on building on Bitcoin test nets and propping it up that way or something, because I see like so many people getting that sour taste or that bad taste in their mouth because of true shit coin. I mean, and that's like Hawk Tua coin or whatever this, and seeing this whole thing play out, it's like, why would anybody, and it's like people go, oh, it's funny. I go, well, so it's you threw money away because it had a funny name, like, okay. But you threw money away because it had a funny name, and you thought that other people would think it was funnier, so that you could sell when it got too funny before it got boring, and that's like, what are you even doing? It has no practical use. You can't name a single use for a meme coin. There's not one, other than it's a joke. Looking at something like Litecoin, which was the original altcoin, is interesting because Litecoin definitely had Lightning. It had a lot of abilities that are being put into Bitcoin. There's a lot of privacy things that they're looking at there. But for me, is I like Bitcoin because I think it is so slow. It doesn't change. It isn't it's we have this peer-to-peer electronic cash that enables what it enables. If we can figure out how to do other things on it, great. But if it takes away from that, I think the fungibility and the store value aspect of it, I think it's something that no, that's it for me. Bitcoin is the only drug. Yeah, I don't shitcoin.
And what
Yeah.
do you think about like real world application of blockchain? So, for example, like not like giving too much value to a coin in
Mhm.
general, but like
Yeah,
using.
I mean, that's something, like, it's hard for me to even comment on it because I don't know. I truly don't know the real world value of applying blockchain technology to medical records, right? I'm sure there's a coin that's already trying to do that, right? But none of them at this point are really succeeding, right? They all have introduced just one additional problem after another that doesn't scale, So for me, it's like, do I believe it? I mean, I don't know. I don't know enough. For me, Bitcoin is sound money. It's that for me. And it's something that I want to make sure that I have more of, and that my children have more of. Bitcoin is for me, it's Bitcoin. It's not blockchain.
Yeah, I totally understand your point. So, what do you think, like, the biggest barrier to Bitcoin adoption?
I think something we covered earlier is the biggest barrier is a lot of red tape and walls and hurdles coming between the accessibility for people to be able to buy it. So if you hear about Bitcoin and you want to buy it, from the moment you hear to actually getting it into your wallet, it can be quite a process for some people, right?
Mhm.
And look, Bitcoin's sitting at 100,000 right this second, and there's a lot of people who are coming into Bitcoin this week, right? A lot of all-time highs bring lots of new people. What challenges do they face? Well, they face a lot of challenges, from phishing attempts, from being prepared to this. And a lot of times, look, exchanges set you up for phishing attempts because they give you an attack vector. They say your Bitcoin is going to be frozen if you don't act now. So you need to get, so they log into these exchanges, they give people this, or they know that you have, Bitcoin. So they they cast a massive wide net, and thinking that, okay, maybe these people have hardware wallets. Let's send a bunch of phishing emails related to their hardware wallets, and let's just phish. And I think that those kinds of risks are mitigated by keeping your privacy, by saying, hey, you can buy Bitcoin peer-to-peer without KYC, with cash. So you're not leaving a digital trace. You're not exposing your information there. But I think that that's one of the biggest problems with adoption, is there's so many risks for so many people, and it's still not easy for a lot. I was so surprised, like in Lugano, I went to like a local workshop day where there was like, tons of different workshops being done in the local Italian language. And, there was a presentation on Vexl by one of our lovely community managers, Marco. And there was this lady, she must have been 70 years old there. And she had her wallet out, Phoenix. She was self-custodying Lightning wallet. And after the presentation, she wanted to make a donation to the Vexl Foundation, to our project, what we're doing. And she did it like that. I pulled up the QR code. Somebody had already showed her how to, do it. She donated, like 10 euros to the Vexl Foundation. It was like, that is so cool, because it shows that, yeah, there are people who can learn, and it doesn't matter your age. The tools are getting easier. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is making it truly more convenient and accessible for people, without saying, oh, well, to make it more convenient and accessible, we've got to introduce custody, we've got to introduce KYC and insurance and all of these things, because that's what people understand, right? Mm-hmm. My grandmother, bless her, she's 80, I think 6, and every time I mention Bitcoin, she goes, that's just over my head. Just the word Bitcoin is, it's over her head, right? But this is also a lady who manages her online banking like with magic. She pays bills, she does everything through the internet with her online banking. And I go, well, how did you learn that? But you're so resistant to learn Bitcoin because you hear big words like cryptography. So I think that education is really important. Sorry for that. My reactions for meetings are on. Education is really important, but also the tools that we create are essential in making Bitcoin convenient for people. So again, think about that waiter or that hotel bellhop or the taxi driver. Is you got an elevator pitch? How do you teach somebody about Bitcoin to make it easy and give them those tools? Well, we're getting there. We're not there yet, but I think that Vexl is a good step. Lightning is certainly a great, thing for a lot of people. Even the self-custodial apps are getting a lot easier to onboard somebody and help them self-custody even in the Lightning. So yeah, I think that, UX is really important. And that's what, again, Open Vexl, it's very intuitive. I think anybody can figure it out really, really easily. I think, yeah, UX is extremely important, whether that be in a hardware wallet or in, an application for a wallet to a software wallet or something like that.
In the traditional media, there is like so many voices that are against Bitcoin, and it's like
Mhm.
Bitcoin is getting a very bad rap in general, because they say that, okay, like this is the money for terrorists and so forth and so on. But also, education is not always available for people, especially in their local language,
Yeah.
or on their level of understanding most of the time. Like, does Vexel do any steps to educate people about Bitcoin, or would
Yeah,
you?
I mean, so some really cool things are happening. Right, is we are community, like we are a tool for the community, right?
Mhm.
So we've been working with like Bitcoin only meetups all over the world. We have community managers in Nigeria, who are leading, they're members of their community, their Bitcoin community, but they're also helping people learn about these tools. They're also onboarding locals. Trezor also has Trezor Academy, which maybe you've heard of Trezor Academy, but it's all over the world now, where they're doing local Bitcoin education, helping people learn these things, the right way in an atmosphere that's safe and comfortable for them to learn and ask questions. And I think that that's one way that we're really changing it, because each of those people who go to these Bitcoin meetups and they have a good experience, yeah, they tell other people, they go, come, you can ask these questions. And looking at like, from Canada to South America to Africa, we got people in Namibia who are building Bitcoin peer-to-peer communities, education centers, and they're doing it with Vexl, and they're empowering, the people. So I do think that um, this is the one way that we have kind of helped get that word out, is we are supporting local communities, right? Is Hungary is actually a country that we haven't really been to much. It's a very big country. But it also Budapest has some great companies in it that have done a lot of good things for Bitcoin. But it hasn't really been our thing, because I don't know if there's a strong Bitcoin meetup community in Hungary. That's not something that, I'm American guy who lives in Czech Republic. It's hard for me to make these. So it really, Vexel is word of mouth,
Mhm.
right? So if you have a Bitcoin only community, if you're listening to this and you are like a Bitcoin meetup community and you want some help, you want to promote your meetups, you want other people to hear about you, get in touch with me, because that's what we are doing. We are trying, we have initiative right now, it's an education initiative where we've created these cards that we're actually open sourced and shared, that is like talking points for meetups to kind of break the ice and get things started, but also has some fun pub quiz questions. And we are launching this beta with 21 selected meetups all over Europe, and they're localized into their languages. They've all been translated from the community, not from us. Like, so this is kind of, you see like Plan B Network, you see all of these initiatives that are really, not focused on telling people how to make money on pump fun and the meme coins, but actually helping people say, all right, you're traveling around the world, right? As Bitcoiners do, they travel, and you want to teach people about Bitcoin. Well, learn. Here are some tools. Here are some things to do it. But also, is Bitcoin meetups are popping up everywhere, and I think that that's really how we start to win. Is
Mhm.
Bitcoin meetups are, they don't just have to be some guys getting together and drinking beer or whatever and talking about Bitcoin. It actually can be a thing where you come and feel comfortable asking questions. And when you learn from real people rather than the internet, I think that you value that a lot more, a lot more. And so we are, we're shipping out these cards to meetups, and we're getting their feedback to kind of shape them, so we can open source these activities for the world to be able to help each other learn.
Mhm. No, like Hungary has quite a big community in general, like in Bitcoin and Ethereum as well. There are obviously shitcoiners too, but like I cannot really say a lot about them. In one of the meetups, I also met with, or like it was like a small conference or meetup, like I don't know how to classify that, to be honest, but like there was this guy who is continuously like watching our podcasts. Like he's like amazing, and in the BitcoinBázis shop you can only pay with Bitcoin, so that's or like at the conference, you could only use Lightning Network to purchase the books or like the merchandise that was available. And he was just like, yeah, casually coming to the stand. He was like 60, end of 60s, early 70s, a charmer, I must say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he was like, yeah, come on, darling, let me send you a bit of Bitcoin for that. And then it's just amazing who, like, for the people who is open to these kind of developments or open to experience life in another level in general, are always like going to learn about the new stuff, and like kind of like will not be afraid to swim against the current, because especially like their age range is like very resistant towards like Bitcoin and change in general.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's something, like I said, it's like if you're a Hungarian Bitcoiner and you want something like you want Vexl, right? You want something like this. Like I said, reach out. I'm super easy to find. Just look up Vexl. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Nostr, I'm on all these things, and say, hey, we have a Bitcoin meetup, and help us, right? Because we will definitely promote your meetup. We'll share it. But also, like you talked about something earlier, is like it's hard to get educational content localized into your language, but really there are some great initiatives in this regard happening. There's European Bitcoiners, which that's what they do. They take articles, and there's somebody who says, I can translate this, and they translate it, and then they publish them, that really start to kind of make that content accessible for everyone. And so if you're, a Hungarian that wants to contribute to an open source project like Vexl, and you want to localize Vexl into Hungarian, like you can easily do that. You can contribute, and you can feel that you're part of that community. But anybody can also open a GitHub issue. Like go to our GitHub, open an issue, request feature, whatever, because we're building this tool to empower your community. So I think like if you want it, and if there's a big scene in Hungary, and people like Bitcoiners, they're probably already wanting the peer-to-peer. They're probably already doing cash trades, and they probably already have this system that they're using. But I promise you, Bitcoin's at 100K, and I still don't think the bull run is here. Like the bull market is here. Are we in a bull market? I don't know. This is the strangest one I've ever been in. So it's at 100K. When the bull market comes and your little peer-to-peer Telegram group starts to get infiltrated by scammers and everything else, you're going to wish that you had a different solution for this. And that's something that we truly do better, is we allow you to take that little peer-to-peer Telegram channel that you have and scale it so it's future proof, so that it's not infiltrated by scammers, and so that you can actually create a network of reliable, trusted connections that you can trade peer-to-peer with. I mean, it's that simple. So get in touch, and I'm glad to send you cool materials to help promote it. We have all kinds of stuff.
So if you could change one thing about the current like Bitcoin ecosystem, what would it be?
Yeah, the current Bitcoin ecosystem is that KYC. It's hard because you're fighting regulators, you're fighting these things. But if I could change something about the ecosystem, that it really I would say like fuck financial institutions. Like it's that simple. Is stop giving your personal information to financial institutions. Stop incentivizing people to give away that information to large centralized exchanges. That's what I don't like. I don't like massive ETF, involvement. This for me is not Bitcoin. Is needing permission to buy Bitcoin is not Bitcoin. So what I would change is I would stop normalizing centralized exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, but no, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but no, I mean, for me, there's no reason to need an exchange anymore. If you're a day trader kind of person, right? Is like, are you a Bitcoiner if you're a day trader? No. Like I don't know. I mean, you can be, I guess, but for me is that's not what Bitcoin was made to do, is trade in and out of fiat. That's not, no. For me, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. um I think that's the mission that I'm on. So when I normalize that there's a guy with 10 computer monitors trading, on exchanges, for me, that's like, that's not what makes me excited about Bitcoin, right? So exchanges, I just don't think that we should normalize these things. Bitcoin was made to be peer to peer, and I think that it can be.
Yeah, I mean, like I was more thinking of like not the day traders, obviously, but like for example, me, I do dollar cost averaging, and then I buy Bitcoin 3 times a day. So
Mhm.
it would be hard to like,
No, it wouldn't. I mean, no, it wouldn't. And I can tell you
no,
that, right? So we call ourselves peer to peer Tinder for Bitcoiners, right?
yeah.
So I'm not like looking to say every time you buy Bitcoin, you open Vexl. No, I want you to find the person that you can always buy Bitcoin from, right?
Hmm.
So I make money in Bitcoin. I earn some Bitcoin. I have rent to pay. I have these things. So there is always someone selling and there's always someone buying, right?
Hmm.
But there are people who become kind of like Vexlocks, is what we kind of refer to them. They become like the guy for their connections who is constantly selling Bitcoin. They call them ethical Vexlocks. So DCAing is as simple as saying, hey, I would like to buy Bitcoin 3 times a day. If you're cool with me doing this electronically, with me sending you the money, or here's the times that I want to buy it. I'm going to I'm going to give you this amount of money. Is like, it's possible. You don't need an exchange to be able to DCA. That's just not true. I personally do not. I DCA. I earn a Bitcoin, but I also like my DCA that I've set up for a long time because I'm proud of that I have kept it. But I do that with an individual. I don't DCA via an exchange, and it's possible. Meet your guy. Don't go, oh, and that's for a lot of people. They go, oh, I need an exchange because I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to do that. It's like, no, it's all possible with individuals. That's what people do. People,
Hmm.
you can easily DCA with an individual.
Yeah, like you might be right, to be honest. It's just like the comfort sometimes kills.
Yeah, right. But the comfort kills because you've already done it.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
already gone through that annoying process of setting it up and being able to do it, right?
yeah.
But imagine telling someone, right, is, okay, mom, you're finally wanting to DCA into Bitcoin. All right, well, here's the steps. This is what we got to do, right? Or you go, oh, I know a guy. He's a good guy. He's friends. He earns Bitcoin and he's always needing to sell. He'll be happy to DCA for you.
Hmm.
It's that simple.
Yeah, I would try it and report it back to you. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, like you said, you live in Hungary. I mean, and right now, I mean, there's not a lot of users of Vexl in Hungary because we haven't focused on trying to promote Vexl there. We haven't, that's not been our area of focus. We launched in Czech Republic and Slovakia,
mhm,
and that's been our focus. And we've been, right now you can buy, Vexl is full of offers in Czech Republic and Slovakia. There's historical precedents. The reason we're called Vexl is because of, during communism, the Vexlocks were the guys who stood on the streets, who sold vouchers that the government gave to only certain people to be able to shop at approved stores. So they
mm,
were called Vexlocks. They provided freedom to the individual because anyone could approach a Vexlock and be able to purchase a voucher with cash that they could buy blue jeans or whatever, right? So of course we caught on here really quickly, and also being a Czech company, it caught on. But if you want Vexl to work in your country, in your community, you've got to tell people about it. You can't just expect to log on. Imagine you logged on to Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever marketplace, Vented. I don't know. There's tons of them, every one of those marketplaces were empty the first day they launched. You can't just expect that that it's the answer, right? You have to build it. It's proof of work. It's telling people about it. It's making sure that you understand that people help people learn that, hey, if you want to be able to do this, you can't just expect someone to give it to you, because, well, yeah, they incentivize you to give them all your personal information because we're making it easy for you. But it's not easy. You have to build it. You have to tell people.
Let's see. Let's see
Yeah.
how does it work? Because like I'm interested in two markets, like in the UK and then in Hungary as well. I would
Mhm.
love to like see more people get into Bitcoin and see more people explore the peer-to-peer version of it,
Mhm.
and not just in terms of like exchange, but in terms of like or like exchange it from fiat to crypto, but like to trade some other kind of like commodities as well.
The UK, we're definitely. I mean, there's loads of users in the UK, like, so there are lots of them there. Hungary, you got to build it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We will see. I'm sure that the community will like pick it up at some point, and I would be happy to help you with some kind of translation as well, so it's
Yeah.
more accessible for our community back there. For the beginners, what's one piece of ultimate advice that you want to communicate for them in the end of this episode?
If I was someone new to Bitcoin and I'm just starting out my journey, you have it better than almost any of us ever did. There are so many tools that you can use now, that you can use from day one, to enter into Bitcoin in a better way than almost any of us did before you, right? So now there are tools to be able to buy Bitcoin without KYC. There are hardware wallets to be able to self custody your coins safely and securely. There are amazing backup solutions that you can use. Is, I would say, get a hardware wallet, even if it's, more than how much you wanted to invest. I would say hardware wallet is a really good step, because it teaches you to be serious from the first moment that you get into it, to protect that information that you have. So get a hardware wallet. Stack sats DCA is super important. And yeah, I mean, learn, ask questions. Don't be shy to ask questions because you think that it sounds stupid. There are no such thing to me as a stupid question. So that's how I feel with most Bitcoiners. Is, it's easy to look at the internet and see that people are toxic and mean, but I don't believe that. If you're a beginner, start and find your local Bitcoin meetup and go and ask those dumb questions that you think are dumb, because I promise you will get genuinely good, sincere answers from good Bitcoiners that go to Bitcoin meetups. So yeah, use a hardware wallet, buy Bitcoin without KYC, and yeah, learn. Like I said earlier, is I don't know shit about a lot of things in Bitcoin. There's so much to learn, and that's why they say study Bitcoin, because there's so much to study. Is look at books. Look at Joseph Tetek's The Separation of Money and State. Look at Safety's book, of course, is widely recommended, but now there are so many good people that have written so much good stuff. And yeah, that's what I would say, is learn. Don't jump in and be prepared that this is going to change my life and it's going to make me rich. But jump in and go, I have a lot to learn and I want to do it right. Make sure you do it right. And that's what I told my friend. My friend, the first time he ever bought Bitcoin successfully was with Vexl. And that was my aha moment. I went, man, you have no idea how jealous I am that was your first interaction with it. So yeah, that's my advice: is learn, study, take it slow.
Well, thank you so much, Grafton, for
Thank you.
coming to the podcast today. I really appreciate your inputs, and I do appreciate the work that you do, because, yeah, as you said, we have to make it easier and easier for the newcomers to enter the market and to be able to learn about the ecosystem and Bitcoin in general. So we have to make sure that we orange pill them right.
Yeah, of course.
And and you are definitely like on the forefront of this revolution or evolution, depending on like who you are asking.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like everything that you shared about Vexl, or like we're gonna link your details and Vexl's details in the show notes below. And then like if they have any questions, then
Yeah. Get in
our
touch.
viewers know will get in
Yeah.
touch with each other.
Check our website. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us, or X as it's now called. It's still hard for me. But yeah, and like reach out. Reach out. We're happy to talk. We're happy to, if you have any questions whatsoever, I don't care what they are, bring them on. I'm ready to answer them.
Ez volt a Bitcoin Kebab, a BitcoinBázis podcastja.